Back in 2019, I made a video about nootropics, which are substances that are thought to maybe improve brain function. They're often pushed by people like Joe Rogan, who is part owner of a company that sells pills to gullible young men, usually promising to boost their brains with little to no scientific research to back that up. In that video, I went over the various studies that have been done that have found no benefit to these pills, with the biggest being a comprehensive study by the Global Council on Brain Health that found no supplements that they could endorse for brain health at all, writing very few supplements have been carefully studied for their effect on brain health. For the handful that have been researched, several well-designed studies of supplements for brain health found no benefit in people with normal nutrient levels. It's unclear whether people with nutritional deficiencies can benefit their brains by taking a supplement because the research is inconclusive. There was also an earlier Cochrane review that covered 28 different studies with more than 83,000 participants that did not find evidence that any vitamin or mineral supplementation strategy for cognitively healthy adults in mid or late life has a meaningful effect on cognitive decline or dementia. Well, it's been 2 years since then, and strangely my video failed to capsize the absolutely enormous nootropic snake oil industry. So today we're going to talk about a new popular brand trying to sell a coffee-based supplement using a very prominent spokesperson.
I'm Mayim Bialik, and I love brains. It's why I became a neuroscientist. I also have a brain, and I love the brain supplement Nareva Plus for both of those reasons. Unlike ordinary memory supplements, Nareva Plus fuels 6 key indicators of brain performance to keep your brain on its toes, figuratively speaking. In fact, it's their most complete formula ever, with clinically tested ingredients that are neuroscientist approved. So support that big, beautiful brain of yours with the brain supplement that thinks bigger. Nareva, think bigger.
Mayim Bialik first gained fame on the extremely 90s show Blossom, but her fame exploded back in 2010 when she joined the cast of the hit TV show The Big Bang Theory, aka the sitcom that provides my parents with the only cultural touchstone back to my life as a science communicator. And for that, I will always be a little grateful, despite the slight annoyance of constantly hearing about how something that I or my partner says is so Sheldon. It was around then, like around 2010, that I first became aware that Bialik had spent much of the time in between Blossom and Big Bang actually pursuing and achieving a doctorate in neuroscience from UCLA. She also calls herself a feminist, and she's a vegan. Holy shit, I thought, we have so many values in common, like science, women's rights, animal rights. We are definitely going to be best friends one day. Nothing else I learn about her can possibly ruin this warm feeling of respect and admiration. Oops. So it turns out that just prior to joining The Big Bang Theory, Bialik wrote a book on parenting in which she revealed that she does things like eat her own placenta, which is a really stupid pseudoscientific and sometimes just cultural practice with no known health benefits. Fine, whatever, not a huge deal. But she also revealed and later backed up in interviews that they are a non-vaccinating family, which is a shock considering her science background, but not a shock when you realize that her pediatrician is the same one Jenny McCarthy used, a man who openly and falsely says that vaccines can cause autism and other developmental delays, which they do not. 10 years later, in October of last year, Bialik finally took to YouTube to declare that she was not, in fact, anti-vaccine. She had been wrongly painted with the anti-vaccine brush, and that she and her kids would be getting their first flu shots that year, along with the COVID vaccine when it became available. And then she said a bunch of anti-vax shit.
Now, do I think we give way too many vaccines in this country compared to when I was a vaccinated child? Yes. Do I believe that most people don't even know what hepatitis B is, but vaccinate their newborns for it anyway because they're simply told to? Yes. Do I believe there's a tremendous profit that is made from vaccines, and specifically from making sure that kids show up in school. Yes.
Yes, of course. The famous making kids get educated billion-dollar industry. Famously, that is how we've created most of America's billionaires here in America. Public schools. Easy money in public schools. So yeah, this is all just the normal fallback position of the typical anti-vaxxer who realizes that they have a deeply illogical and unpopular belief. Okay, fine. Vaccines maybe don't cause autism, but there's just too many compared to when I was a kid, and therefore that must be bad somehow. When Bialik was born, there were 3 recommended vaccines for babies. DTP, which is diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis, which together killed tens of thousands of American children each year before this vaccine was developed. Polio, which injured more than 50,000 children each year before the vaccine was developed, and the MMR vaccine, aka measles, 50,000 cases per year before the vaccine, mumps, 152,000 cases per year before the vaccine, and rubella, which in 1964 to 65 infected about 12.5 million people, resulting in 11,000 women losing their pregnancies, 2,100 newborns dying, and 20,000 babies being born with congenital rubella syndrome. 9 more vaccines have been added since Bialik was born, and all of them are literally saving lives. Yes, including hepatitis B, which was the first anti-cancer vaccine. I don't care if Bialik doesn't know what Hep B is. Ignorance will not protect her and her children from this disease. Hep B is the most common serious liver infection in the world, affecting 1 in 3 people and killing 1 million people each year. There are usually no symptoms, as it quietly just destroys your liver, leading to cancer and cirrhosis. And due to the lack of symptoms, it's very easy for a person to unknowingly pass it on to another person via unprotected sex. The vaccine is extremely safe and extremely effective. So yeah, I'm sorry, but you're still anti-vaccine if you are shitting on a vaccine that can save millions of lives, with the most common side effect of it being soreness at injection site. That's anti-vaccine. So I guess it's no surprise that now Bialik is offering her specific science-based fame to outright quackery in the form of Nareva, a magic pill that claims to be able to improve your brain. Gary L. Wenk, a professor of psychology and neuroscience and molecular virology, immunology, and medical genetics at Ohio State University, wrote last year that Nareva is snake oil, promising that their coffee extract will increase your levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, and thus make you smarter. Studies on rats found that sometimes rats with higher levels of BDNF in their brains run through mazes faster, and coffee can raise BDNF in a human's blood. But did you detect some of the subtle problems there? Let me make it really clear. The studies were on rats, not humans. Not all the rats actually did better with higher BDNF levels in their brains. Coffee raises BDNF levels in the blood, not in the brain. And FYI, BDNF cannot pass through the blood into the brain. So, yeah. Here's how I ended my last video on nootropics. Meanwhile, there are nootropics that actually are scientifically proven to work. Caffeine, for example. Caffeine has loads of positive side effects, including giving your brain a boost so long as you're taking more than your body is accustomed to. In fact, a randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled study found that caffeine was better at improving cognitive abilities than Caff Plus, a mix of 3 nootropics that were being sold mixed with the caffeine. And all that still holds true. The regular caffeine that you can get in a $2 cup of coffee from Dunkies can give you a cognitive boost. But there's simply no evidence that mixing caffeine in with nootropics and selling it as an expensive pill does much of anything at all. Sadly, I don't expect this video to get in the way of Nareva's sales. For a start, they're the same company that made millions off of Airborne, the bullshit immune system booster that tricked a whole lot of people into taking placebos every winter. Of course, they did have to give $23.3 million of that profit back, thanks to a class action settlement, and then another $30 million to the FTC, due in both cases to their completely ridiculous, unsubstantiated health claims. But hey, that's just a drop in the bucket, right? Clearly these guys know how to make a buck and not sweat $100 million or so going to the legal fund every now and again. And in Bialik, they found the absolute perfect snake oil salesperson. A likable, funny woman who spent 10 years playing a scientist on one of the most watched sitcoms of its era, who actually has a degree in brain science, but is too stupid, too credulous, or too greedy to say that this magic brain pill is bullshit. So it's the perfect storm. I look forward to my parents spending their limited retirement funds buying this snake oil from a celebrity they've come to trust. Well done, Mayim Bialik.